Guess we're ready to begin.
Sure.
All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. It's so good to see everyone. Welcome to the press conference for the 2021 November General Assembly of the U.S. Bishops. My name is Chieko Noguchi, and I am the Public Affairs Director for the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. We are here in Baltimore for the General Assembly, where the bishops are meeting for the first time in person in 2 years. Last November's meeting and this past June's meeting were both held in virtual format, and in light of the challenges of the ongoing, or gathering because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. As you will observe, even as we meet in person, we are continuing to exercise caution and following COVID mitigation measures such as masking and distancing. The host of our press conference today is Bishop Michael Burbidge of the Diocese of Arlington. Bishop Burbidge is the chairman of the USCCB's Committee for Communications. Bishop Burbidge, thank you for your work in leading the Communications Committee. I'd like to hand it over to you for the introduction of our bishop panelists.
Oh, I can hear it for you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chieko, and thank you, everyone, for your presence here today. As you can tell, we had a very full day here at our meeting, so thank you for hanging in there and staying a little bit later. It is good to be back in person. There's a very great spirit here among the bishops. You can see how happy we are to be back together in real time. We heard from Archbishop Gomez earlier today in his presidential address, where he gave a tremendous reflection as we begin to emerge from the pandemic and how important it is for us to continue to proclaim Christ and live out the gospel. We have with us this afternoon Archbishop Gomez of Los Angeles, who is president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Joining me here is Bishop Andrew Cousins, the bishop designate of Crookston, who is chairman of the USCCB's Committee for Evangelization and Catechesis. There has been a lot of interest in the Eucharist. Earlier today, we had a preliminary presentation on the bishop's draft statement on the Eucharist, and the bishops will discuss it tomorrow in the general session. Something that dovetails into the statement, though, is the Eucharistic Revival Initiative that the bishops are undertaking, which is being led by Bishop Cousins. So we are pleased to have him joining us here today. So thank you again for your presence. Thank you for your work. Chieko, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and we'll open the floor up to questions from members of the media. If you have a question, please raise your hand or signal to me, and we do have some new faces as well as some partially obscured faces, so when you're called upon, please announce your news outlet and the bishop to whom you wish to address to ask your question. Father Reese.
Tom Reese from Religion News Service. Archbishop Gomez, I think this meeting of the bishops has had more time in executive session since Cardinal Kroll was president of the Bishops' Conference. Is this the pattern that we're going to see in the future, or is this just because you had such a controversial document on the Eucharist that you had to spend all the time in executive session talking about the Eucharistic document?
Father, if I could answer that question. First of all, the additional executive session this afternoon was not on the document on the Eucharist. But it is our practice not to comment on executive session. But just to be clear, today was not because of the Eucharist document. This afternoon's executive session.
But what about all yesterday?
Well, that's part of what we do. We do have that time allotted to be able to talk to one another as brother bishops. I think this afternoon would be the only additional executive session that was not anticipated.
Historically, it's only been one afternoon.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no, obviously I was not here when Cardinal Kroll was here. No, I think it's just I think we were not able to have the conference in person for a couple of what it was, year and a half or whatever it was, 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's just there are some new bishops, and we are trying to just strengthen our fraternity as bishops. But there is nothing extraordinary, and I don't expect that what you are saying in the future. I don't know. It really depends on what are the needs of the bishops at some specific time.
But there is no plan to, and there's been no request to continue to add, but we do it as needed per year. As the Archbishop said, it's the first time we've been back together in a while.
Okay. Next question goes to Peter Smith.
Hello, I'm Peter Smith with the Associated Press. Realizing that some of these discussions have been confidential, I mean, to the extent possible, can you describe, what are the range of amendments being offered for the communion document? What are like some of the highlights in terms of topics that are being addressed? And is there sentiment among some for maybe more of a forthright discussion about what to do about politicians who are Catholic who do support legalized abortion?
I think, Brad, you know more than I do on that, no? So, again, I think the document, we've been at this document for a while, including accepting the recommendation that we would spend more time on it at our June meeting, which we did. It was extensive collaboration. We also used special regional meetings during the summer. There's been multiple opportunities for bishops to comment and to make amendments. So we're at a point right now where there is really, from my understanding, we'll see tomorrow if there are any additional amendments, but we're at a point right now where the document is ready for further discussion and a vote tomorrow, God willing. And so I don't see many significant changes to what has allowed us to get to this point.
Maybe I can help you with the process. We make the presentation of the document, and then the bishops can suggest amendments, and those amendments go to the doctrine committee. That is the committee that put together the document. So they are the ones dealing with the specific amendments that are suggested. So that's what. I'm not in the doctrine committee, obviously, so I don't know exactly what is the content of that. Okay. Maybe that can help you to see what is the process.
I just wondered what you had been hearing since the doctrine committee isn't represented here. I just wondered what you might.
I understand, but
okay.
I have been busy. So, thank you.
The next question goes to Dennis Sadowski.
Hi, Dennis Sadowski, Catholic News Service. Gentlemen, I'm just wondering, the coming together after 2 years, has this brought back some more collegiality? I'm just wondering, coming together to talk even about the controversial document on the Eucharist, if it's going to be controversial, we don't know that yet. But is that, because people can see face to face, what has that atmosphere been inside the room among your brother bishops?
Personally, I think it's been very beneficial, and it's a good number of bishops that came to the meeting, and I think we are being able to talk to each other and share what's the situation in our personal diocese and in our personal lives. So I think it has been. I've been a bishop almost for 20 years, so it's been a really wonderful time from my point of view, just sharing with the bishops and listening to them and seeing them. I think it's been very, very fruitful, but I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely would agree. I think, we did something different this year. We began on Monday with an entire morning of a day of recollection, which allowed us to pray morning prayer together in front. We were in the adoration of the Blessed Sacrament, reflection by Archbishop Kurtz, the opportunity for confession, the rosary. So it really settled us into a very good space. And I really noticed, as the Archbishop said, beginning Monday afternoon and throughout this entire day, just a really good spirit, a great collaboration among bishops, both formally from the floor, but also in the informal times too. So it's really great to witness that. Bishop Cousins?
Yeah, I would absolutely say it's been a blessing to be together, and especially to renew old friendships. Remember, there's a lot of new bishops who've been ordained since we met last time, and so a chance to meet the new men. I've been experiencing, though, especially as the director of the Eucharistic Revival, people coming to me saying how important they think this project is and how important it was that we began our time with adoration. Many people don't know, but we also have adoration going on throughout the night. So bishops have been signing up for night hours to come down. I did 1 to 2 a.m. last night, and there were bishops throughout the night praying before the Blessed Sacrament in the Blessed Sacrament Chapel. So I think there's a sense, too, even with the Eucharistic Revival, that needs to begin with our own adoration of the Blessed Sacrament and spending time together in prayer. And there's been a really great spirit. So I would say, yes, definitely, collegiality is increasing.
Okay. The next question goes to Lauren Green.
Thank you very much, bishops. Retired Cardinal Mahoney said in a CNN article that this Eucharistic document was not necessary because all the meat was kind of taken out of it. And even in the seminar last Thursday that National Catholic Reporter had, they said it had been so watered down that nobody could object to it. So what is your reaction to those two statements?
Honestly, I don't know what Cardinal Mahoney did, so I don't know what he's saying. But from my point of view, the document is really well done, and it really goes to different aspects that are important for the church and for the faithful. And I think it's, given the reality of what even Catholics understand of the Eucharist, how important it is, I think even it's so necessary just for us to say something about the Eucharist, because it's really the center of Christian life. So, and I think it's, from my point of view, it's something that was necessary for a long time. And I know that we did other documents in the past, but given the current situation, I think it is very important from my point of view. That's what I'm very happy that we are working on the document. I understand the different opinions and different understandings, but I personally think that it's something that's absolutely necessary, especially thinking we are doing this Eucharistic revival. So people need to be, how can I say it, better educated on what the Eucharist is about. So I think for me it's very important, but I don't know, you want to?
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's coming at a very important time, and the document certainly addresses the realities we are in. We're aware of the belief in the real presence is something that is of concern to bishops, that teaching needs to be reaffirmed in a beautiful way. Having people come back to church, the fact that certainly during the global pandemic, the spiritual communion, but what is the difference? What is the difference between participating at home in a spiritual communion than actually being present in the body of Christ and receiving the Blessed Sacrament? So we're in a unique period in our history, and I think the document addresses it.
The only thing I would add is that the document is a beginning, and that you could expect that we would begin to produce other catechetical resources based on this document, as we've done with other kinds of documents. And no document can say everything that needs to be said. But I think it's an excellent document in terms of capturing the fullness of the mystery and the depth of our teaching. And then you could look for different groups, but especially the Eucharistic Revival, to begin to build on that document in order to help people understand the full ramifications of that for the Christian life.
I'm just going to repeat what my colleague from the AP talked about. This document started out with trying to actually target legislators who were Catholic and who were presenting themselves for Holy Communion. So is the document still as strong to address that?
I thought, personally, my understanding is that the intention of the document was not that. The intention of the document since the beginning was to educate Catholics about the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, because we got that honestly, we got that research that said that I don't know if I don't know how to say it, but that the study said that 70%, if I remember correctly, about 70% of Catholics do not believe or accept the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. From my point of view, when we started talking about the document, that was the real reason, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to emphasize that it was never the intention to target any individuals or group of individuals. This document is part of a strategic plan that the bishops have already had approved. And so this is a document that is reaching out to all Catholics, and we're being consistent with that.
That's true, and the strategic plan has been something that has worked for a number of months or years. So, and it was approved, if I remember correctly, in 2020.
Yes.
No? So I think the document is part of that process. So I hope that that's useful.
Okay. The next question goes to Jack Jenkins.
Hi, Jack Jenkins with Religion News Service. This question is for Archbishop Gomez. I want to ask about your speech this morning, which got your speech this morning that got a standing ovation. In it, you referred to the American story as rooted in a biblical worldview and the values of our Judeo-Christian heritage that underwrote America's founding documents. That view of American history has been popular recently. It has also been widely criticized. And I'm curious how you would respond to historians and activists who've argued that that view of American history, that Christian-centric view, not only obscures America's religious diversity, but it also obscures how Christians fought each other throughout American history, including periods of time in which they oppressed Catholics. So I'm just curious of how you respond to that criticism of that view of history.
Well, that's my personal understanding of the beautiful reality of American history. I think it's clear that in my view, that it started with the basic of Christianity. And I think the reality that we are living nowadays is that the society in which we live is becoming more and more secular. So that's my point, that I think that ideal that the founders of this country had has been a beautiful realization of what this country is all about. And then my hope is that we continue bringing that the beauty of the gospel, of the teachings of Christ, as something that is useful for people as we continue addressing the challenge that we have nowadays. Obviously, the challenges that we have are very, very difficult. So, unity in our country, respect for each other, love for one another, all of that, even the social issues. You know, I mean, there is poverty everywhere. I mean, I tell you, in Los Angeles, it's very challenging. We have, 50,000, 60,000 homeless. It's just a very challenging situation, at least in my archdiocese, and we are trying to do, from the point of view of the Christian principles, to help all of those people to many different ways, ministries that we have in the archdiocese.
And on that, just you've been critical of what you call the secularization of America. And in a recent speech, you similarly criticized protest movements and activist movements that you called pseudo-religions. And I'm just curious about that, because many of those activists actually were people of faith that participated in the George Floyd demonstration. So I'm just curious how they fit in this version of how you understand this moment in American history, those activists that were part of those movements who are people of faith, or even they're Christian in those moments.
That's correct. I said in my presentation that my presentation was just to share with people what I see that is happening in our country. And in the document, in my presentation, I clearly say that I admire and I support all the Christians that are working on all of those issues. And even there are so many people that are working on those issues. I just wanted to make the point that I'm saying now, that more and more our country is going to some secular way of living. No, it has nothing to do with religion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next question goes to Christine Roussel.
And also, excuse me, I also wanted to encourage, especially Catholics and Christians, to be more active in social justice, because it really needs. That's what my part of the purpose of my presentation was, just to tell Catholics, hey, we have a beautiful way of bringing peace and growth and just social justice. So let's be active.
Hi, I'm Christine Roussel from Catholic News Agency. Since the beginning of the pandemic, there's been a lot of talk about how indoor religious services are dangerous, communal singing is dangerous. As the pandemic's waning, people are getting vaccinated, other things are happening. How do you plan on convincing people to come back to Mass and that coming to Mass is safe?
Yeah, well, we certainly want to continue to repeat that nothing can take the place of fully being active in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, receiving the body and blood of Jesus Christ. Our churches have, followed and implemented protocols, continually, and we continue to assure people that we are following the safety protocols, the recommendations given to us, and encourage them that if they are, in a position where they're continuing their regular activities in life, that their spiritual life has to be part of it too. And so now is the time to return. We understand that there are some people who physically or emotionally are compromised right now or are not in that place, and we understand that. But our churches, I think, have been consistent right from the beginning in following very strict adherence and protocols. Bless your cousins.
Yeah, I think also just the example of the bishops being together this week is a good example. Of course, there's some small risk of the bishops when we gather here, and a lot of the bishops are older and might be considered in risk categories, but they understand the importance of being together and being in person, and that's actually such a great benefit that it's worth the limited risk that it might take. And so I think we want to help people understand the great benefit of receiving Holy Communion, the great benefit of being together in the worship of God. And there might continue to be some small risk in that, but we hope people will see that the benefit outweighs the risk.
Thank you.
The next question goes to Elena.
Hi, Elena Molinari with the Italian Catholic newspaper Avvenire. When we listened to Archbishop Pierre talk to the bishops this morning, he shared a concern that he noticed that growing polarization in the nation, but also he mentioned in the church. Is this concern shared by the bishops inside the church?
Yeah, it's not just in the church, it's in the country. I think it's everywhere. I think that's the reality of the world in which we live. So, but I think our mission, as Archbishop Pierre said, is to understand that we all are brothers and sisters in Christ, and we need to work together over the possible differences that we have in certain issues. But I think it is important. I think I'm grateful that Archbishop Pierre talked about that, because I think it's an important matter at this time.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the church is freed from the polarization and sometimes a lack of unity. And that's why we are so blessed with the example, the encouragement of Pope Francis, who is leading us on a synodal process now, encouraging us to walk with each other, listen to one another, and to dialogue and to be able to speak to each other, because how is division or how is that going to be healed unless we participate in such a process? So yeah, I think we're at a moment in time where we're not freed from that within the church, but we certainly know the path forward, and I think the Archbishop just described that, respecting one another as brothers and sisters in Christ.
And Fratelli Tutti. So there's a beautiful document of Pope Francis, and I think the Conference of Bishops and dioceses all over the country are trying to help Catholics to understand better that document and put it into practice. So was beautiful.
I see multiple hands up there, but I'm sorry, we've been doing this for a little while. I do have to call. The last question goes to Chris Gunty.
Chris Gunty from Catholic Review in Baltimore. Bishop Cousins, Bishop Baldacchino, and others today said that the document itself might not be really accessible to people. How will the Eucharistic Revival Project become accessible to people so that they do get on board with all of this?
Thank you for the question. The Eucharistic Revival Project is bringing together both experts in evangelization from around the country as well as various members of the USCCB staff. And we've developed a structure that we're using to implement the revival. And you're going to see that rolling out this spring as the revival begins in June. And so part of that will be, for example, we have a webpage which will be out there, eucharisticrevival.org. And we're preparing that webpage now. We've had a wonderful donation from the Augustine Institute in their Formed platform. And so they're going to allow us for free to curate all kinds of different materials, catechetical materials of all ages, for various cultures and languages, that we'll then be able to push out across the country for free to people who want to access those at the diocesan level in the first year, and then at the parish level in the second year of the revival. So what we're going to try to do is translate the kind of theological basis that the document is on to the various levels and then also to the various cultures. I know some people are already working on trying to put together those kinds of materials that we hope to get out actually quite soon once the document is published, to be able to help make it accessible to people. The other thing that we're learning, especially in our consultations about the revival, is that one of the most powerful things to help people understand the gift of the Eucharist is witness, the personal witness. So this week we asked bishops to record a 3 to 5 minute personal witness about their own love for the Eucharist. And so we had a little camera set up in one of the rooms, and bishops could stop by at any time and record their own personal witness. Why do I love the Eucharist? What difference does it make for me? And so that's the kind of messaging that we're going to be used, not just from bishops, but from young people and old people, pushing out those witnesses to help try to reach those people who maybe they even consider themselves Catholic, but they don't fully understand the beauty and the gift of this teaching in order to revive their faith.
Archbishop.
No, just to share with you that for me it's been a very special time this week, because it's the first time that I see my brother bishops since I became the president of the conference in person. So I think it's been very emotional, because I see how dedicated they are to their in their life and ministry to the people of God in the United States. It's just beautiful to see how all over the country they are totally dedicated to God and to serve the people of God. It's beautiful to see that. Especially for me, that now I'm more aware of what happens all over the country. It's just very beautiful and emotional to really kind of physically see how they are just dedicated to God and to serve the people of God. So I'm very grateful to God for allowing us to be together in person this year, and I hope that continues to be the normal thing. And I also want to thank all of you for coming and for helping us to share with the people out there that the church is totally dedicated to serve our people in the United States. And I think it's been beautiful also the presentation of Archbishop Pierre, just encouraging us to listen, to listen to the people and to work together. So I think as I said, for me it's been just special and very emotional. So thank you.
Thank you, Archbishop.
Well, I'm sorry we were not able to get to all of the questions. I know that there were many hands raised and many signals to me that I was not able to get to. Thank you, Your Excellencies, for your time this afternoon, and thank you to ladies and gentlemen of the media for your participation in this press briefing. For those of you who are tuning into the live stream, the General Assembly resumes tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., and tomorrow's press conference commences approximately 15 minutes after the conclusion of the afternoon session. Thank you, and have a good evening, everyone.